Good morning from Utah Valley University Office for Global Engagement. I'm your host, Baldomero Lago, and I welcome you today to our Global Dialogues. During this session, feel free to ask questions in the Facebook comments window. If time permits, I will address a select few. Today, our distinguished guest is Ms. Felecia Maxfield-Barrett. And as a way of introduction, Felecia, she's a native of the state of Utah, and she joined us. She joined actually 4 years ago, the Utah Council for Citizen Diplomacy as executive director. And prior to that, she had a great extensive experience in government and nonprofit administration. Her prior work history includes the Department of Workforce Services, Refugee Services Office, the Utah Refugee Coalition, and Wasatch Community Gardens. She has a bachelor's degree in anthropology and a master's in public administration, both from the University of Utah. Felecia has extensive experience in oral history and storytelling, and she believes through capturing stories, we create a sense of self, how we orient the world, how we organize and pass knowledge on to others, and create shared humanity. Felecia is passionate about all varieties of music, spends her free time gardening, and as you can see by her background, adventuring in Moab, Utah, and looking for dinosaurs, as I see in your background.
Yeah.
Felecia, such a great honor to have you with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me here, Dr. Lago.
I'm so delighted to bring you into our weekly Global Dialogues conversations. UCCD, the Utah Council for Citizens Diplomacy, that's what we're talking about today. And I am very confident there are individuals out there, even as of today, that never heard of them or never heard of this organization, never heard of the positive things that this amazing organization is currently doing and has done for over 50 years. Tell us a little bit about what is UCCD and how it came to be.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct that for 50 years, we've been what I like to refer to as Utah's best kept secret, because the work that we do is really cool, but nobody knows about us. So coming on to programs like this and being able to share the work that we do is really important because it's all about citizen diplomacy. And that's the concept that everybody has the right and responsibility to help shape foreign relations. And we do it as simply as one handshake at a time, although right now it's definitely one Zoom meeting at a time. It was one fist bump at a time. So, hopefully that's going to change soon. I can certainly talk about how we do our work in COVID. But we got our start here in Utah. We are a nonprofit that is specific to Utah, even though we do partner with other organizations across the United States and Washington, D.C. And our primary focus, our mission is to promote respect and understanding between the people of Utah and other nations. And so we do that by hosting international exchange programs, primarily through the U.S. Department of State. The International Visitor Leadership Program being the flagship program. And so what that means is through the Department of State, embassies around the world will identify global leaders, and they could be leaders in a business, a government agency, nonprofit, or they could be individuals in their community doing really great work. And they bring them here to the United States, and then we submit proposals and ask the Department of State to bring them to our state in Utah, so that we can connect these individuals with the great professional resources that we have here around a specific theme. Themes that we're really well known for is government accountability and transparency, rule of law, interfaith dialogue, entrepreneurship and innovation, arts and humanities. And then while they're here, we host them in Utah, connecting with professionals, doing some cultural activities, hosting dinners for these individuals with volunteers. And so really it's just a way of fostering global connections through the most simple act, and that is shaking hands and having a dialogue. And then in addition to that, we have the Ambassador John Price and Marcia Price World Affair Lecture Series. In fact, we're launching our first lecture of the season tonight. If anyone is interested and wants to participate, I can send a link. And then our Young Diplomats of Utah program, which focuses on engaging high school students in Utah to become globally curious, working with them when they're in college to get them connected to global events around the world and foster their leadership skills, to working with them once they're career ready to connect them to the jobs by helping them gain employment skills.
That is actually, I mean, that's amazing. The outstanding work that you folks do. Um, it appears to me that you have become more or less, or the organization has become the ambassador of the state of Utah to the world. I mean, by hosting that many individuals, by bringing this dialogues and conversations, I think is fantastic. How many individuals do you think through the past years have actually come to the state of Utah thanks to the great efforts of UCCD?
Yeah, to the best of our record keeping ability, what we estimate is we've welcomed about 12,000 of these global leaders from 200 countries. In a pop quiz, if you can answer it, how many countries are there already in the world? Do you know the answer to that?
Well, I know there are 193 member states and that the UN,
Yes.
so we probably, and those are the recognized states. So if you probably a little over 200, I would imagine.
Yep, exactly. So we've hosted countries that don't even exist any longer. We've been doing this job for so long. And one of the interesting things is because we are welcoming people in and they're essentially professional tourists in the state of Utah, we've also generated $30 million worth of economic revenue for the state of Utah.
I was going to ask that question right now. So, I mean, has this impacted the state? And it's interesting, has it impacted the state culturally, right? But hello, $30 million, economically speaking, to the state because of a nonprofit organization of connecting individuals and bring them to this conversation. This is great. Do you feel that you are supported throughout the community by other entities? Could be government agencies, could be business, could be other nonprofit organizations, religious institutions. I mean, do you feel that you are connected and supported by them?
Oh, absolutely. Some of the key partnerships that we certainly recognize is, World Trade Center Utah as being that private international relations organizations for the state of Utah and the Governor's Office of Economic Development. I really feel like the three of us are working towards that comprehensive picture of international relations for the state of Utah. However, in addition to that, we give great appreciation to Westminster College that offers us space in order for us to do our work. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a strong partner, the Price Family Foundation, but even more so, we're a small organization. There's only 5 full-time staff, and then we bring in about 3 to 5 interns and fellows a year. The only way that we can do our work is to get people from the community involved. And so when we take a look at all of the people who volunteer their time to meet professionally with our guests, when we look at all the cultural activities, the dinners that are hosted in a year, in a normal year, we tend to have about 350 volunteers who donate 8,000 hours worth of their time, because, we need that people connection. The common denominator when it comes to diplomacy, whether it's traditional diplomacy, soft diplomacy, public sports diplomacy, is that people connection, those people moving these ideas and these concepts forward through negotiations. And so we're completely appreciative of everybody that gets involved with our organization.
Felecia, you talked about having staff of 5 full-time employees plus 3 interns and multiple activities that goes on, and you are the executive director. So what is your role as an executive director of CCD?
Yeah, well, when you started out saying that you're probably guessing that most people haven't heard about us. What my primary focus has been over the last 4 years is, one, extending and creating programs that can open up the point of entry for people to get involved with our organization. So when I started, we did the international exchange programs, and then we hosted the lectures. But since then, we've started the youth program and been able to incorporate youth into the work that we do. We host all these different types of conversations and dialogues, in order to get people thinking about, how does Utah engage the world? What does that public discourse look like based off of what's happening in the world today? And then just going out into the community and introducing the work that we do and the concepts that we do, and signing up volunteers to organize. So that's been my primary responsibility over the last 4 years, is just extending that brand of Utah Council for Citizen Diplomacy across the state. And I'm excited to share. And this was one of the big concerns when I started, was, even though our name is Utah Council, our primary focus was Salt Lake, and then we extended a little bit into Utah County and up north. But we have since put a focus in, how do we reach into the four corners of our state? So we have some really strong partnerships in St. George and Southern Utah University, all the way up to Logan.
That is great. I imagine that during this past 50 years, or even the 4 years that you have actually been leading Utah Council of Citizen Diplomacy, there have been some major highlights that you folks have been involved or been able to accomplish. Would you mind sharing maybe some of those highlights?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the one that I'm the programs that we do, the initiatives that we do, they're like children. I love them all in their own unique way. They're amazing. But the one I have to say that I'm most excited about, and we're on the cusp of really being able to see its full potential, is a program called the Global Leader Scholarship Fund, which, your office is such a catalyst for us to be able to run this program, because of the work that you did with the 68th United Nations Civil Society Conference. So the Global Leader Scholarship Fund is a legacy program of that conference. We were able to get some grant funding where individuals, college students across the state who are 18 to 29, who don't have the financial means to travel just on their own, whether it's because they're working or they're students or they have other financial responsibilities, can apply for these travel scholarships. And then what we do is we take them in groups to global events that will connect them in with international networks, will help them refine their leadership skills, will introduce them to how the world is addressing these big, large global issues and the role that Utah plays in those. So we just got done finalizing our first round of scholarship recipients. We have 12 of them for 2021. And now we're just waiting to see, okay, what are those global opportunities that we're going to be able to take these college students to and really get them engaged, whether it's something with the United Nations, maybe some other events around the world. So these young individuals are inspiring. They are the future leaders of Utah. And we really hope that through this experience, that one day they'll look back and say, it's because of that scholarship, it's because of that opportunity that really set the trajectory of my life in becoming a global leader for Utah. So we know that these youth are going to do great things. I'm really excited, especially as being a storyteller, what those end stories are going to be, 2 years down the road, 5 years or 20 years down the road.
It's remarkable the great work that you do with the youth. And youth, when we talk about youth, you talk about even all the way from high school through college.
Mm-hmm.
We want to clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got really three main components of our youth program. So the Young Diplomats of Utah is high school age students, so 9th to 12th grade. And it's a group of students who get together to really start learning about global engagement. So we host diplomacy simulations. We have them talk with individuals that are working in international relations, whether it's a foreign service officer or an ambassador to a professional international NGO. to somebody who's doing a Peace Corps mission right now.
Wonderful.
And then cultural events of exploring food and music and other humanity aspects so that they can start really thinking about how they might engage the world. The Global Leaders Scholarship Fund, being that you're in college, you just have to be between the ages of 18 to 32. And then for students who are either undergrads or they're grad students, but they know that they need to work on their resume and their employment experiences, we do offer internships and fellowships. And I do want to make a plug for them because we pay our interns and fellows. We very much value their time and talent. And I think we've got a couple that are available right now in terms of marketing and communications. But the idea is you develop your work skills because you're working in a professional office. And we really look at what your career path is. Because we've been doing this for 50 years, we're pretty well connected in the state of Utah as well as the United States. And so we look at what are your career goals and how do we connect you to those? So some of the job placements that we've been able to assist with are young individuals getting scholarships to work with the Department of State or have jobs with the Department of State, getting entry into the Peace Corps, getting into master programs across the United States, the Department of Defense, the Air Force, so we really want to make sure that we help you in connecting professionally with the job that you want to do when you grow up.
I think you have described beautifully the great work that you folks do with the youth. And when we talked about some of the highlights, there's one hidden highlight that not too many people know about. And I've been fortunate enough to participate in a few times, and that is Vivaldi and Light.
Yeah.
Would you tell the community what that event is all about?
Yeah. And, fingers crossed we'll be able to host it this year. We did have to postpone it because of social gathering last year. But Vivaldi by Candlelight, where nonprofits will tend to do golf tournaments or do galas as their fundraiser. Our fundraiser is a music concert. We've been hosting it for 37 years, and it's beautiful music around the Baroque era. And the fundraising is you buy tickets so that you can attend the conference or you can attend the concert. And we just talk about it as a night of music diplomacy, a way to really expand across borders and connect people through beautiful sound. So stay tuned. We'll probably have an announcement about September, whether or not we're going to be able to host it in December. Everything's looking a little bit better. So there is hope in 2021.
We have really what I consider survive or living in a very complicated year due to the COVID virus and the pandemic that has been around us, not only in the state of Utah, but also worldwide. And I imagine that not only Candlelight by Vivaldi by Candlelight by Vivaldi has impacted your events per se, but also bringing all those individuals, hosting all those folks. So how are you able to operate under the COVID conditions at this point?
Yeah, that's definitely the big question, isn't it? When the mission is connecting people together across the state and around the world, how do you do that when international travel has ceased at this point? And I have a very talented team that I will give complete credit to. And we recognize in about April of last year that the situation wasn't going to go away anytime soon. The great part of our organization and, in my experience, we have a very strong international exchange program that focuses on alumni. What does everybody who come to Utah do once they go back home? Does that information that they gained here impact the work that they do in their own communities? And so when COVID happened, we reached out to our alumni population and said, hey, we just want to connect in with you. We want you to know that you have friends in Utah. We want to be here as a resource, and any way that we can support you, let us know. And so we were able to put together some ad hoc conversations with our alumni and figure out how do you host virtual meetings that are meaningful and impactful and authentic because so many times we get into these scripted, this is what a lecture looks like, this is what a conversation looks like. But how do we connect people in Utah and our uniqueness here? And I feel like I can say uniqueness because I'm born and raised from American Fork, to the rest of the world. And we had some really great conversations around interfaith dialogue, around public health. When the protests were taking place last summer, we were able to talk about social justice and equality. And we figured it out. And we did such a good job in figuring it out that the Department of State caught wind of what we were doing here in Utah and how innovative we were, and invited us to participate in a best practices group on hosting virtual international exchanges. And so while it's not the same thing as being face-to-face, it's just as needed. That connection, that global connection, that talking about tough issues that challenges our value system are just as needed. And we're able to have those conversations because we host virtually. We anticipate that will continue through at least the summer of this year. And then just depending on how the vaccine implementation goes and how comfortable Utah feels, as well as the world feels about coming to Utah, we anticipate that we'll be able to start hosting hybrid in-person virtual programs again.
Wow. I'm so grateful that individuals like you are able to think outside the box and try to make things happen and continue connecting the world, even through this medium, through a virtual type of platform like Zoom or others. So understanding that the complexity of maneuvering all the things that UCC does currently, what are the plans for this year, for the 2021?
We really are looking forward to getting back to in-person programs. But at the same time, we feel like we've spent an entire year in this incredible case study of how do you connect virtually with one another, and how do you connect to the most rural parts of Utah and the most rural parts of the world. And so virtual programming, we do anticipate, will be a sustainable portion of the programs that we offer. We're really excited about that. But getting back to in-person program is really our goal, while keeping our community feeling safe and secure and our visitors feeling safe and secure as well. I sure do miss connecting with people, though. I do miss going to the meetings. I miss seeing our community partners and being out and talking to people face to face. So that's just a personal goal of mine.
I know the UCCD is well connected with the Department of State. And now as we face a new administration, how do you envision that this relationship is going to develop? Do you feel that it's going to strengthen? You're going to be the same? I understand that the new administration is looking more into global cooperation than in the past. And so do you see any major changes or enhancement to the program that you're currently conducting?
Yeah, the Department of State is absolutely a strong partner of ours. We're very hopeful that there will be focus in building up diplomatic relations again, when so many of the ambassadors around the world, the career foreign service officers that had so much institutional knowledge on how the world worked, left. We're very hopeful that with Secretary Blinken, that he understands the value of all different types of diplomacy, that it is what we as a nation prefer, as opposed to using force. So we're very hopeful that we'll be able to connect again to the world and have strong support for the work that we do, knowing that external diplomacy and internal diplomacy each have incredible value in shaping U.S. foreign relations.
You announced that this evening you're going to have a great event.
Yes.
One of those few, but I'm very excited. It's my planner, and I'll be there virtually. And it's interesting because this is the third event that I will attend regarding China. And I know this topic of China vaccination that we're going to be listening this evening. What do you think is so relevant right now that there's so many different entities across the globe that they are bringing up the issue of China? And today we're going to be watching China vaccination. So
Yeah, exactly. I have to say that China isn't necessarily the main focus of the lecture, even though the conversation is based around China's vaccine diplomacy. What really we want to get to is how are richer nations like the United States, like England, like China, like India, using the administration of vaccines to create diplomacy when it comes to other developing nations. And is that diplomacy fair, or is it creating a vaccine apartheid? I think it will be very interesting to see what that evidence looks like. There's definitely some interesting articles coming out about the relationship of China and India as it comes to vaccine diplomacy. There's certainly interesting articles coming out about US and China vaccine diplomacy. It just so happens that our guest speaker is a specialist on China, and that's how come we're focusing tonight's conversation on that particular topic. But I feel like it's a worldwide conversation we need to be having.
Our time is come to a close. We like to close at 11:30. Any last thoughts that you would like to share with us?
Only that, I take very seriously, and this is where I tend to nerd out as a citizen diplomacy enthusiast, is that I truly do believe that we can shape US foreign relations and worldwide foreign relations as simply as having a conversation with others from around the world, whether that be a fellow student that's here on an exchange program, whether it's us connecting through social media with other people from around the world, it's us traveling, whether we want to accept it or not, we are ambassadors for the United States. And so understanding that role and responsibility is absolutely crucial. And that's how come I invite as many people as possible to get engaged with our programming, so you can start exploring how you want to engage the world in a responsible and peaceful manner.
I was going to ask you, if individuals want to volunteer, be connected, be involved, participate, where should they go?
Definitely our website, utah.diplomacy.org. We actually just launched our brand new website today. Right now, it is a little bit limited on how we can get people engaged, but once we are able to meet in person, those opportunities will certainly expand. And then specifically for UVU college students, which are absolutely some of the best students across the state, and we've had many fellows and interns come from your university. Right now we do have a marketing and communications fellowship available. I think it pays about $10 an hour. It's part-time, and because of not being able to get together to work, that work is going to be offered virtually. But then also start watching our website around March and April of this year, and we'll be opening up our fellowships and internships for the next academic school year.
Felecia, you are absolutely wonderful. Not only you're telling us about the amazing organization that you have the privilege to lead, but also you're even giving us job offers. Or what else can we ask, right? What else? But anyhow, it has been a true pleasure having you on
Thank you.
Dialogues. Thank you very much. And to everyone that has been following the proceedings, I will continue to watch and through our YouTube channel these proceedings. We want to thank you for your participation and for today's successful event. I want to remind everyone that tomorrow, Wednesday, at the same time, we will be discussing the Sustainable Development Goal number 13, climate action. And we'll have a panel. This is part of our Taking Action programs that we are conducting here at the university. And we are having a wonderful panel of 4 individuals, experts on the field. And these individuals are Dean Danny Horns. He's the Dean of the School of Science. Also, Dr. Alexander Zanazzi. He is a professor that specializes on climate change, and I think as well as earth sciences. And then we'll have Mr. Josh Kraft. He is the manager on government and corporate relations under the Utah Clean Energy. And last but not least, we'll have Mr. Tom Moyer. That he is the state coordinator under the Utah Citizens Climate Lobby. So he's a lobbyist. And so it will be fun to interact with these four brilliant minds and to talk about current climate crisis. What are we doing? How can we benefit our environment, our society? And so we're looking forward tomorrow, same time, 11 o'clock through this medium. Now, if you want to see a full schedule of our global dialogues or previous videos programs, you can simply access to our website at uvu.edu/global. Again, Felecia, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lago.
Thank you. It's been a privilege. And as we sign off, choose to be a global citizen. Thank you and have a wonderful day today.